walking on it with the weather, how long do you expect that to last?
Yeah, well, this is
Very
what's so,
good question.
yeah, this is what's so interesting when you do ephemeral work, right? And everything that I do is like throwing the hat over the fence and then jumping after it. Because it's a huge jumping and trusting. And the weather will come, it'll pour rain, and it will change completely the work. So it is ephemeral. And it's that idea also, fragility, the piece again that I have at the Cone Gallery, Erskine, where I have, it's very interesting. Right now for PSD, I've got 3 shows up, and all 3 have to do with the feet, with the ground, with the surface of the earth. And at the gallery, it's a rectangle of decomposed granite, very, very, very thin. And that too, we have 2 people from the gallery right here, where they're going crazy when people step on it. We have little cards that say, pay attention to the feet, pay attention to the earth, which is the whole idea. It's really a statement. It's really, it's risky, but one has to understand that it's about the statement, right? And so, in time, it will change. And I've never done one like this before. When I've done gold leaf that flutters, it's been on large paintings, but never outside, so it's a real new. And thanks to Claudia, who trusted me and doing it.
Well, we did a test run, of course.
We did many tests.
So there was
tests.
a little, and a little bit kind of came off, and everybody, of course, we had to work with Caltech facilities, who are like, whoa, we're gonna go into the filters, and the turtles nearby, and this, and it was like, oh, it's fine, it's non-toxic, and then, of course, the first time you really actually covered the bridge, the gold just in like clouds just kind of wafted off, and we found the gold in all kinds of other places on campus, which I loved. Of course, facilities hated it, right? Because they go like, what are we gonna do? And it's all gonna, and I was like, God, we should just, so we figured it'll settle with time, but to answer your question, we probably have to touch up. We wanna make it look as spiffy as we can for as long as it's possible.
And it's important that everybody's happy as well, right?
Yeah.
And so we found a way that was great to get as much of the fluttering out while still being fluttering. But how do you express beauty? Beauty is so ephemeral, and again, everything conspires against you can't do this. It's not. It's this constant. I remember in the 70s, I caught myself in my studio would make these models of these powder pigment pieces, and I had an air cannon, and I would blow it around to make the piece. And I went, oh my God, I'm just using, like particles and air. I no wonder we've wanted bronze and stone, right? We want to conquer nature. So it's this fine balance. As an artist, I feel very lucky that at least as an artist, you can make that kind of statement. About fragility also. And one of the things that I'm interested in too is the difference between fragility of the earth with the strong human, but also the more fragile human with a strong earth, and that kind of constant dance between the two.
Do you ever reflect, kind of self-explanatory, a very rhetorical question, but talk to us a little bit, if you could, about your role as a female artist in all of this. I always have sensed a very strong kind of sense of femininity in your art. This idea of the esoteric and being out there and being more receptive to the things that are not necessarily tangible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering, is that something that you, particularly at a time, 74, right, you're here at Caltech, it's an all-male school, you probably, I forgot now, there were other women in that show, but you were surrounded by males in the arts and in science. and to find your voice like that at a historical moment and to continue to draw from it. I'm wondering if you,
Well, I
if
mean, I
that's
think,
even important in your thinking.
not really. I mean, I think that the creative urge is a very, I mean, I don't wanna put gender to things, but I think creativity is, it's like a force, right? And I wasn't necessarily, I was lucky that both my mother and my grandmother were very, were definitely like
Strong women.
very strong women, and so it gave me that.
License.
Yeah, it wasn't something that they said to me, but that's who they were, and so and plus the need I had to express myself, so it was that. I certainly think that women are coming up now, and the power of women and the power of our voice, and also the difference in that we are about relationships. So part of the reason at one point I was reading that Yves Klein was claiming the sky, and his friend Armand was claiming plenitude, and I said, well, what do I claim? And I remember that what I said was that I claimed the relationship between the earth and the sky. And so that is perhaps a feminine gesture, but I don't think of it, you know. I mean, I certainly encourage young women.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting. I mean, I want to return to that term because you used it before, and I kind of made a mental note to speak about it, but then I forgot. This idea of gesture, right? Talk to us a little bit about, we talked about materials, we talked about colors, we can talk about how this bridge was made, but this idea of gesture as something that what are you gesturing at, about, to whom? It's like, is it expressive? And this idea of gesture is kind of an interesting and complex one.
Yeah. I think it's that voice in all of us that's so hard to get out, right? And it's that need to have that voice come out in whatever way it is. So it's that utterance, it's that motion. And depending on, and especially right now, my newest paintings are they're done with my hands. So it's very much about this, and perhaps it is the feminine, I'm not sure, but this voice that has been within me, but I think of it as all of us, right? I think of how silenced so many people are, and how we all want to speak, we all want to express, and we do.
And want to be heard.
And want to be heard.
Well received.
And there's this beautiful thing that if we could all do that, well, we do, we're doing it. I mean, you look everywhere, we are doing it. Nothing on the planet existed before we were, in terms of culture and arts, right? So we do, but it's still, a lot is still inside that needs to come out. And so for me, that's what I call a gesture. But it also is a one-time thing, right? A gesture is like that, or a simple thing.
Which goes again to the ephemeral, this moment in time,
Yes.
which is the title of the Gold Bridge, this moment in time, this is what's here, what's now, and this is what it means here and now, and then poof, it's gone.
Exactly.
Yeah. Any more questions? We're just talking here by ourselves. Does anybody have any, it doesn't even have to be a question, it could be just a comment. Go ahead.
And I think this is supported by PST, which is amazing. And all weekend I've been hearing about Caltech. And I was wondering, Lita, did you have a residency here at Caltech? Because so many artists have referred to their residency at Caltech, and I was wondering what that looked like.
That's interesting. I did know of artists who had residencies here. I didn't have a residency here. I did teach at Art Center, which is in Pasadena, so my access to Caltech was quite frequent. Steve Nolan was the director at the Art Center gallery, and his big love is art and science. I was included in those exhibits, so I had a lot of talks with scientists here. And also, I was telling you earlier, this is my 6th show here at Caltech, so I just feel very privileged to have been so close to such a, mind. But it's good that there are more women here, because they're all male, yeah.
Well, the first artist in residence here at Caltech was Helen Pashkin.
Right, she talked about it this morning.
Right.
And
So this was in, I think, '69, and she was the first and only woman in that group. And I've said it in other contexts, I was really nervous about calling her because these beautiful discs that she makes, and that are now part of our exhibition, she learned how to make them here.
Oh, wow.
Right?
And she credits that.
And she exhibited the first one, or one of the first ones, at Baxter Art Gallery, and it was stolen. And it's still gone. It never resurfaced. I'm convinced it's in some storage area somewhere here. And I was like, every time I opened, like, maybe it's in there. So so I was nervous to call her because I figured she's not even going to give me the time of day, right? It hates Caltech, but no. So it was, I think, a very formative. And Leah, you were an artist in residence much later. So I think they are. It does leave. I mean, I don't know if you want to say something about that.
Yeah, I did the artist residency 2 years ago in 2021, and it's a new program that's sponsored by, they have a new minor called Visual Culture.
Sponsored by who?
The Visual Culture minor. So they got a Mellon Foundation, and I think it's about 3 years ago, is that right, Peter, that they launched their Visual Culture program. And so as part of the funding, they have 2 residents a year. And so you develop a class, you do a project, and you get access to content. That's the contemporary iteration of it, but I know there has been residents in the past.
So before we have maybe some more questions and we release people into the rest of their lives and out to look at the Golden Bridge some more, tell us how you actually made that bridge.
Oh boy, okay.
Because I know, and it's really great.
Yeah.
So
I had gold-leafed rocks before, and so was always interested in, how does the gold leaf adhere to that kind of surface, and but I'd never gold-leafed a bridge, and certainly not one with a kind of, it's essentially small rocks in concrete, right? So at first I was gonna do it the way I had done in my paintings, which was to take 24 karat gold, little squares, cut them up, and so that you would have 1/4 inch flutter left. And it would have taken us months to do it. I'm trying to think, I'd done a lot of work with just the flex. And so we came up, my whole team at the studio, we came up with getting this material that it's like a linoleum that you can roll, and then we put size on it and then apply the gold leaf. And the way it was applied was so much easier. And we came at 6 o'clock in the morning. There was a team of 5, and we each took a section, and we worked from 6 to 9. Right, it was so hot. It was right during the height of the heat wave, and I didn't want them to pass out. That was pretty much it. But then in terms of making sure that it didn't fly away, we used a vacuum cleaner to make sure that the flecks were kind of staying on there. Is that what you meant? Or
yeah, that's
yes. And it took a long time to figure it out. We've known about the project for 2 years. So I have a great team in the studio, and we did a lot of research, a lot of gold leaf in the rain, to see what happens. But to come up with, because originally it was gonna be on the bridge, and then we thought, how are we gonna take it out?
that was the first question from
Yeah.
Caltech.
Yeah.
It's like, how's it gonna come off?
And it would have been, again, forever elbow grease, and it would have been impossible. So,
And it's really easy. You take the foil
Very
and you
easy.
just rip it off like a Band-Aid and boom, it's gone.
it's gone.
So it was ingenuity in action.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, so it's really,
Well, yes, Leah.
I have a question. So I love that you claim the interaction